Audio Belle, and I am here with PS Audio's Paul McGowan.
Because normal is, it's like a sine wave, you know, and normal is that zero crossing point.
Yeah.
Where, you know, there's a little wrong, there's a little right, and that's normal. And every once in a while, everything goes right, and that's not normal. And everything goes wrong, and that's not normal. So they showed up and had a warrant for my arrest, and hauled me off to jail. So that was my first jail experience. Yeah.
You were just warming up, though.
I was just getting warmed up. The radio station had said, "Well, you know about this electronic stuff," and I said, "Yeah." And so we need new phono preamps. Could you design them for us? There's two kinds of phase. There's electrical phase and there's acoustical phase. And we'd rather have as much of that lower mid-range covered by a ribbon than by a woofer. So that necessitates a very quick roll-off, which would be a multiple slope filter. Wow, this is cool. And I started hearing audiophile systems and kind of fell in love with the whole thing.
Wow.
That's my story and I'm sticking to it.
The Audio Belle, and I am here with PS Audio's Paul McGowan. And we're about to have lunch. We just ordered tacos, so.
Yeah, tacos out here in beautiful, I don't know where the hell we are, Colorado.
Yeah, I don't know where we are.
I don't know. We're at this stupid resort that should be in the middle of Vegas, but here we are.
Yeah, just some resort in the middle of nowhere here in Colorado.
Yeah, definitely in the middle of nowhere, but we decided to go out to the pool area because inside is too air conditioned for us.
Yeah.
And Cynthia likes the outdoors, and I do too, so here we are.
So, are you planning on doing any hiking after the event?
Yes, this weekend we're probably going to go up to the Brainerd Lake area, and there's a couple of, like Blue Lake is one of our favorite hikes, and that's, I mean, it's only like 3 or 4 miles. It's not, but it's just gorgeous. And being in Colorado, within a month or two, it'll be fall colors and then cold.
Yeah, that'll be beautiful.
More hiking. It'll be really beautiful. Well, Terry and I are going to take a trip to, our first one, to be leaf peepers up in Vermont and Maine and all of that. So she's got it all arranged. We're flying up somewhere. I guess Buffalo, New York, somewhere, and then just drive down the coast.
And see all of the leaves?
Yeah. First time we've ever done that, so that's our big adventure.
I bet that'll be breathtaking.
Yeah, I got my camera ready and I'm good to go.
I have a friend who went up there, I think it was last year, and she and her husband just drove through that to see all of the fall foliage, and she said it was remarkable.
Oh, yeah. I've seen pictures. Well, we've all seen pictures, but it's something I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, I bet.
So we'll get through this show.
Was it, I don't know, was it kind of cumbersome to set up everything?
Yeah, this was one of the worst setups that we've ever encountered. It was pretty much everything that could go wrong did go wrong. And I'm usually pretty mellow when it comes to setting up because we have a pretty good crew. We've got, I think, about 8 people that takes to set a show up. And my wife Terry's in charge of setup, and she does all the making everything look good and ordering us boys around what to do. And then I'm in charge of getting the stereo system set up and going. And I was pissing and moaning, and it was, I stepped on one of our interconnects and really expensive and ripped the XLR right out of the socket, and we built this very special deck tet, which is one of our products. It's a 10 outlet thing. We took a standard deck tet and put in a 6-gauge power cable. I mean, this thing is a moose. It's about that thick with I think it's a 30-foot cable on it, and that's our main powers, because these hotels have like one outlet, and so we're always prepared with that. And this thing's a beast, and it served us for show after show, and it stopped working. I mean, which I don't understand how. It's just a giant 6-gauge hooked up. I'll find out when we get back.
That's weird.
Yeah, I mean, one thing after another, and we set it up along the far wall, and then listened to it, which took 6 hours of hard work, lugging speakers and opening boxes, and it sounded like crap. So I just tear it down, we're going to move it all over this way, and then we had to set everything back up again.
Oh my gosh.
And about 10 o'clock at night, it was sounding pretty sweet, and I was just exhausted. So
what day was this?
that was Wednesday, and then press day was Thursday. And so we had to be ready for that. So normally, I mean, setup's always hard, but it's not frustratingly hard. And this, because I've done shows for 45 years.
Yeah.
And this was the worst. And to no fault other than Murphy and just everything going wrong,
Just sounds like bad luck.
Well, yeah, and as I always try and remember as a human being to pay attention when everything goes right, because a lot of times everything goes right and we go, well, that's the way it should be, and then when everything goes wrong, well, that's effed up, and you get all angry, and so I try and wow, it kind of comes in waves, right?
Yeah.
Say a wave of everything going right and a wave of everything going wrong, and I try and recognize the wave of everything going right,
so that you know when to expect the other way.
Well, that, and also to appreciate it, because normal it's like a sine wave, and normal is that zero crossing point.
Yeah.
Where there's a little wrong, there's a little right, and that's normal. And every once in a while, everything goes right, and that's not normal, and everything goes wrong, and that's not normal. So
you're describing it like an engineer.
Well, yes, I am. I know. Terry just like, oh my God, here we go again. But yeah, I can't help being an engineer.
I can't either.
An engineer.
An engineer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had a nerdy question for you, actually.
You manage a team of engineers, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, there you are.
I started out as a server engineer, and then I went into network switches.
Ah, our drinks have arrived. Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Evan.
I got no French dog. There's just not.
Oh, that's okay.
Cool. Is there anything else I can get for you guys right now?
No, we're doing great.
You got it.
Thank you.
My pleasure.
And then after
it's just water.
Is it?
Yeah.
That's a likely story.
Yeah. Cynthia doesn't believe me.
No, but this is just tea. So.
The Long Island style.
Yeah, there's nothing Long Island about this. Well, so I got into networking, and then after dealing with switches and stuff, I ended up becoming a supervisor over the team I work for.
Wow, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah. I did have a nerdy question for you.
Sure.
Because although I'm an engineer on the server side of things, and networking side of things, I'm not an audio engineer or speaker designer. But I was wondering, like with speakers, some manufacturers will have positive polarity across treble, mid-range, and bass drivers, but then some will have the mid-range reversed in respect to the treble and bass. And I know that a lot of people argue about which one's better, but I'm just wondering what's the significance of it, and I guess which one is better? What's the better way to go?
Well, take our new AN3 loudspeakers that you saw in the room. So the mid-range is out of phase with the mid-bass couplers and the tweeter. And so that's a perfect example of what you're talking about. And there's two kinds of phase. There's electrical phase and there's acoustical phase. And so when you're dealing with a crossover point, and you're trying to marry, a low pass and a high pass filter, and especially in the mid range where you've got what we call a band pass filter.
Yeah.
So in a mid range, you want to roll off the top end, which is what we call a low pass filter, and then you want to roll off the bottom end, which is called a high pass filter, because the mid range, it's in the middle, folks. And so we got to roll off the top and we've got to roll off the bottom. And when you do that, you also have another slope that's coming down from the tweeter above it and the woofer or whatever you're dealing with in a three-way or four-way speaker. And those crossover points can get pretty interesting depending on what kind of crossover you have.
Yeah.
So you could have a simple one slope, which would be a 6 dB per octave, or a 4 slope, or a 3 slope, or a 2 slope, and it really depends on the designer, what they're trying to achieve. It also depends on the driver. So with some drivers, like we have a planar mid-range, and the planar, it goes up pretty nicely, but it goes down. We want to take it down as low in frequency as we can, but below a certain frequency, it gets kind of wonky, and you don't want to hear it down there. So what we want to do is take it down as low as we can go, and then get the hell out of there real quick. Because if we do it too gently, then we have to take the lowest frequency that it goes pretty high. And we'd rather have as much of that lower mid-range covered by a ribbon than by a woofer. So that necessitates a very quick roll-off, which would be a multiple slope filter. And when you combine that with the other one, if you look at it on our measuring equipment, you'll all of a sudden see this huge suck out. There'll be like a 15, 16 dB suck out at the crossover point. And you fix that by flipping the electrical phase, and that brings it right back into line, because you don't want them canceling each other out. So out of phase cancels with in phase. So in a perfect world, everything should be in phase, but what's important in a speaker is the acoustical phase. So because of the crossovers and all that, without getting overly complicated, you just want to make sure the acoustic phases are all in phase acoustically. And you do that by using your measurement equipment, and we model everything. So to answer your question specifically, there is no right or wrong answer. The wrong answer is to have something acoustically out of phase, because that really sucks big time, because you're going to have a huge dip or a big peak or whatever. So I don't know if that answers your question.
It does. So it could be acoustically in phase and still be the driver
electrically out of phase.
Out of phase, yeah.
Yep.
That makes sense.
Our tacos are here. Thank you. That's all right. We'll hang on for a sec. Thank you so much.
I can. Would you like for me to pause it?
I don't think she really cares. So we can just keep going.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you.
Whatever you'd like to do.
No, I'm fine. Yeah, let's keep going. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
That's really interesting, though.
Yeah. Well, and I'm more of an electrical engineer, and I'm learning a lot about speakers. I mean, Arnie. I worked with the founder of Infinity, Arnie Nudell, for years, a long time, multiple decades. Learned a lot from him, and but there's still so much to learn. Speakers are a whole art in themselves, and our chief designer, Chris Brunhaver, is a real expert. He, by the way, would be a great one for you to interview.
Chris Brunhaver?
Brunhaver.
Brunhaver.
Yeah, I mean, he is a speaker genius. That guy knows more about speakers than anybody I've ever met. And I've met a lot of speaker designers, so he might be a good one for you to talk to.
And he's in the PS Audio room?
Yep.
Is he the one that designed the speaker that you guys... Okay, yeah, I've met him.
Yeah, nice guy.
Yeah, he's really cool.
He's very cool, very knowledgeable, and so he's the one that... Oh, no, that we haven't touched those yet. Yeah, that's all right.
Okay.
Everybody wants to steal our tacos.
I know, they're hungry.
I know, they're hungry. We won't let them know. I'm guarding them tacos.
Yeah, you keep your eye on those tacos.
You got it. So, anyway, that's, it is interesting stuff. And I wish, I'm learning more. That's, even at my ancient age, I'm still learning every day, and I love it.
I love that too, because I feel like if you're at the point to where you think that you stopped learning, then what are you doing?
Yeah, and I've never understood, I don't understand people that retire. That's just not in the cards for me. And I mean, I kind of get it. Maybe if you're at a job that you just tolerate your whole life and you do it to support your family. My father did that. My father worked at a job, for most of his life that he didn't really want to do, but he had a family of, me and my sisters that had to support, and that was his lot in life. And I get it, and I understand, the desire to want to stop doing that. But for me, I just chose to do the thing I love, and then figure out a way how to make money at it and earn a living at it. So I looked at it the other way. And my dad found something that he could earn a living at to support his family, I just said, screw that. I'm just gonna, even if I have to starve, I'm just gonna figure out a way to do what I want to do and then make a living at it.
Yeah, otherwise
what I did.
you wouldn't be happy.
I wouldn't be. I mean, a lot of people would be. I mean, for me, work is my life. So there's my family and my work and my outdoor activities and my cooking and my writing, and I just, I'm a very involved person. I like to dig in deep, and I always set a goal for myself, and that every 6 months or so I expand the amount of stuff that I do as opposed to contract it. And so I just, at one point decided I'm going to write a book. And then now I'm going to write a trilogy. And I just finished a new book. And so I set new goals for myself because I figured out a while ago that our lizard brain, the amygdala, is this little lion sack of shit inside of our head. I mean, sorry, but I mean, it's YouTube. And but it always, it's just, oh, you can't do that. Oh, you're not good enough for that. Oh, you shouldn't be, And that's that little voice in your head that's no.
It's like you have a limiter in your brain.
It's like you have a limiter in your brain. Very, very nerdy. Very good.
I know.
I like it. And it's always telling us what we can't do. And there are ways to battle that, which I talk a lot about in my latest book. Which, can I give a plug for my latest book?
What book are you writing?
I've just finished a new book I finished one, which is my memoirs called 99% True. And that's actually done pretty well. I've sold about 4,000 copies of that so far.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's a fairly long book. It's crazy. It talks about all my crazy childhood and all the times I nearly got in prison. Oh yeah.
What happened?
Oh my gosh. Well, you gotta read the book.
We're gonna give our
times
viewers
that
a sneak peek of what they might be getting into.
The times that I nearly got in prison. There were multiple times. I got busted for hash in Germany.
Oh my goodness.
And got taken into jail by the German police. I got I was a disc jockey for AFN Europe when I was in the Army, and got caught doing some things I shouldn't do, and threatened to burn down the network, and got thrown out of Europe. And I was not the best soldier the Army ever had, and I'm pretty much a rule breaker. So I wrote about all that.
Wow.
My days as, drug dealing, smoking dope, learning how to design electronics. We started the later version of PS Audio with 30 credit cards that we'd gotten, and that's how we funded the company. And so,
oh my goodness.
Yeah, you would probably enjoy them. I'll give you a copy.
I would love one.
Yep, I'll give you a copy.
Those sound like some really exciting stories.
Yes, they were exciting. They were, yeah. I think my first experience in jail was when I was 17 years old.
Really?
Yeah, I got thrown in the clink for having 14 tickets, one ticket a day, for the same violation in my car. And I blew all the tickets off, and they showed up and had a warrant for my arrest and hauled me off to jail. So that was my first jail experience. Yeah.
You were just warming up though.
I was just getting warmed up.
It's funny.
But it's all in the book. So there you go.
Wow. So you were in the Army. When was that?
I spent my 21st birthday in 1969 laying in a bed wondering, what the hell am I doing here in basic training? This was at a time when you had two choices. It was called the draft, and you had two choices: prison or the Army.
Yeah.
And I thought long and hard about it, but I went in, did my time, and came out finally on the other end of it. Which is all a pretty long story in itself. I mean, when I was in the Army, I got to meet Georgia Moroder. and learned all about recording studios, and almost started a recording studio. In fact, we did in Munich, Germany.
Wow.
And Georgia was going to fund it, and so there's a lot of crazy stories in that book. But then I got caught by the Army for having my hair too long, and thrown out of Europe. Lost my lease on the recording studio. Got sent to Fort Benning, Georgia.
Fort Benning?
Fort Benning, Georgia, the armpit of the world.
Oh my goodness.
Sorry, folks, if you live in Columbus. Not a fan. I worked as a disc jockey at WCLS, which is a Georgia radio station.
Wow.
So, yeah.
It's just tons of adventures. But
tons of adventures.
It's like one flows right into another.
Yes. Well, that's most of life.
One causes the next one to happen, and so on.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when you got a wildcat like me,
that sounds like my mom's
hair.
stories that she used to tell me, though. Just different things in her life. Like, one thing would flow right into another and another. She was like, we need to write a book and call it The Flow, because it just keeps flowing.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yep.
That's interesting, though.
Yeah, and I don't regret anything that, we have, 4 wonderful kids and a wife that saved my bacon more than a few times. So I'm a pretty lucky guy.
Why have regrets?
I have none. I wouldn't be sitting here talking with you if I'd done anything different. So life's good like that.
So did your wife help set up during this show?
Oh, she ran the whole thing. Yeah, she does. We have about 50 people, 50 employees at the company. My wife and I and my son, my 2 sons, well, I have 4 sons, but 2 of them and my wife and I own PS Audio. And so she manages all the HR department, and then she does all our trade shows.
Yeah.
Because you wouldn't want me, I don't have much of a style guide in my head. If it were me, I would just set up a bunch of speakers and some nerd stuff and some folding chairs, maybe throw a plant or 2 down, and that's the room.
I just design it however it sounded best.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But so my job now is to do that, and then her job is to make it look cool.
Yeah.
So, and I like that. I'm really proud of our room. We come in and it's a really fun place to be. So it's a good combo.
Is she an audiophile too?
She is a sort of an audiophile. She built her own system. She's got a really cool turntable. She has our son's Sprout and a pair of KEF LS50s and a REL sub. And she picked everything out. She bought it all, hooked it all up, and it's her little system, and nobody messes with it but her. So I think she probably qualifies as an audiophile.
It sounds like it. She got her own system picked out and built. That's really cool.
Yep. And nobody messes with it, and it's Terry's system, and she plays records at night and loves it. But she definitely doesn't like the big speakers in the man cave and all this stuff. Not a big fan.
Yeah.
So
how do you guys deal with the wife acceptance factor?
We don't normally have much to do with that. We give advice. We help people try and understand,
Do you have marriage advice?
We give, oh yeah, are you kidding? We call it the hi-fi family, because we're very close. Our model with customers is very different than a lot of companies, and it's been that way since Stan and I started the company in '74. We've always been very close and communicative with our customers, and so people call me all the time for marriage advice. How do I was telling a story. I was at a friend of mine who shall go unnamed because he's a bit of a famous character.
Okay.
But we were at his house in Chicago, and he has a gorgeous hi-fi system. This is years ago. And he said, "Hey, Paul, come here. So we left the listening room that we had been visiting, went into his kitchen, and he opens up the refrigerator. And I'm thinking, Bob, this is, what's going on here? What could he possibly want to show me in the fridge? So he opens the fridge up and goes, come here. So, and actually the opening the door of the fridge was just a ruse to block it so his wife wouldn't see. And he reaches into his pocket, and he pulls out this giant wad of cash and hands it to me and goes, put that in your pocket and then call me later and I'll tell you what to do with it. It's like a drug deal here, So I put it in my pocket. He calls me a couple days later and he goes, Well, look, I mean, I tell my wife that everything costs about a tenth of what it really costs, and it's the only way I can get away with it. So I can only pull out so much money in the checking account, and then everything else I have to squirrel away. And so I take that, and there's a new pair of audio research amps that I want. You're going to help me get. Anyway, just
that's so funny.
Yeah, stuff like that. Just crazy stuff.